Hey, man.
How's it going, everybody? All right, let's go ahead and get this thing going.
Underway. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. We had some. We were fighting some technical issues, but we came in just before the clock. So
yeah. Central Server. We are going to show you an upgrade. We're going to show you a client install.
Okay.
And so let's just do it.
But before we start, I want to just make sure Jason really asked us to hit this point. This is a feature. It is not a separate product. This is a feature in PDQ Deploy version 13. It does require enterprise mode.
Yes.
And obviously the number of licenses that you have will determine the number of concurrent, the concurrent sessions that you can run. But this is an optional feature. What we're talking about here, I mean, we stayed true to PDQ, where, you know, if you are like most of our customers and you just want to run this on your console, just on your one computer, you can do that. That's hasn't changed. But for those enterprise level customers that perhaps that have a lot of admins that want to connect, this is an optional feature. So we've got Deploy 12 up, and the reason we do that is we just want to show you when you decide if you decide to go to the central server option, you have to decide which computer is going to be
the server. Actually, yeah.
And most of you, if you do this, will most likely be running on a Windows Server OS. But that's whatever server you make as the central server, the packages, the schedules, all the settings of that computer.
The database is going to be stored there.
It will be retained. All the other client consoles that you make into maybe your standalone, you've got a bunch of standalone different consoles. If you make those clients, those packages will not. So you have to export them and then re-import them into the central server. And make sure you save the source files, move those to the new repository. So we're going to close this up and just quickly install this.
So Shane, I got a question for you. That came up really fast. Is it a good idea to have a static IP on that server?
I mean, I think for me, whether it's static or a reserved DHCP, I always think your servers should have reserved IP address.
I agree.
But it's not a requirement.
Yeah. Good practice, though, guys.
So there's the very simple install. So when you first install this, or when you upgrade from 12, it's going to stay in the same mode that it was, which is we're now calling local mode, which is just the default. That's what it's always been. The console, the database, the background service, they're all on the same machine. Perfect. So here we go. Notice we've got one schedule. We've got a handful of packages out here. And then we've got this remote computer here called Heineken that has Deploy 13 installed, and we're going to make this a client console. But to caught a few changes, obviously. Number one, if you ever want to find out what changes are there, you go to your help contents, and there's the update notes where we break this down. This isn't beta. We're hoping to have this released by sometime next week. That's certainly our hope. So we're in beta 4 right now, but we want to give you guys
like I always say, guys, RTFM, okay? Find out what. Yep.
Some things you'll notice right out of the gate, by the way, preferences. Where is preferences? It's no longer there. We have an options menu where the preferences are, and then we've pulled out some of the old preferences and given them their own area under options. You will see that, by the way, sharing. If you're using sharing, that is going to be going away. It's replaced with the central server feature.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to make this computer. This is Guinness. We're going to make this computer
the server.
The server. So we'll go to options. And we'll go to central server. Actually, we'll do that. So we're gonna. Oh, you know what? I already
when you
done
installed
this.
it,
Yeah,
I did this.
This is server. So basically, when you go to central server, you can click on switch to local mode or switch to client mode. But if you're running this in local, then you'll see switch. You'll see a button for make this the central server. So I apologize. This was already done.
So right there, guys, in the center there, it's going to be listing on port.
6336.
Thank you very much.
This is kind of the window you'll see, the TCP port, and then we'll create the firewall exceptions for you if you haven't already done that. Listen, on all IP addresses, you're probably going to want to have that set. These are
scope it down, guys, to the clients that are going to be attached.
Well, these are the IP addresses on the server. On the server, so if you have multiple IP addresses and you only on the server and you only want one, then you specify that. But really, you'll probably just do a listen on all. Anyway, so now we're running in central server. Let's come over here to options, console users. So notice right now, the background service is being used by Quintana on the Deadwood domain. Chris Powell is listed as, I guess you logged in here, Chris? I guess so. Because when you convert this, yeah, the console that does the conversion, it's logged in as Chris. So Chris is added as a console user. We can add so Heineken is running as a computer as a user named Al Swearingen. We can add Al right here. If you add the user, you type in the username and whatever domain they're in, and then the password for the background service, not the new user that you're adding. All you're doing is saying, we're adding a console user. That way, if you have some users that get a hold of this installation file and they try to make it in the client mode, they won't be able to connect unless they've been approved or unless they have the password for the background service. So we're going to go to Heineken. Open up PDQ Deploy. Now this is, I'm showing this is Deploy 13 running in local mode. So you've upgraded your client console, and let's see, we've got one package called Audacity. This does not currently is not exist on the central server. Reason I'm showing you that is because once you move this, if you don't export Audacity, it's not going to be moved over.
Yeah.
All right. So we're going to go to central server, and we're going to say we're going to go into client mode. And there's the server that we're going to connect to, which is called Guinness. And it's whatever port you set. Yep. We'll say OK. And by doing this, you're effectively saying, I'm no longer going to use a database on Heineken.
I'm looking at Guinness. I'm looking at the server now.
But because we never added, I'm logged in as Al Swearingen, we never added
this console.
Yeah, we never added Al Swearingen as a console user.
So if you're not added as a console user, this is where you would do it, and this is where you put in Quintana, which is the user, the background user's password. And then it will add Al Swearingen.
Correct.
On the back end.
But you could also avoid this by just adding from the central server, adding the console users that you want preemptively.
Oh, there we go. Look.
So Audacity is gone. Now we are connected via, in the computer Heineken. Thank you for zooming out. You can see now we're just looking at these computers. So if we look at the schedules, we see the schedule that was on the central server. Let's go ahead and just push out 7-zip real quick. And the reason doing this is just to show you
that you can see it happening on both server and client.
Absolutely. So we'll just type in this computer right there, just to show you an example. So I am on the computer Heineken. I'm hitting deploy.
You'll see the spinning of the deployment there.
But up here, I also see there's a deployment going on. I look at all deployments, and I'll see that 7-zip you can see the deployment console column right there.
Came from Heineken.
Is coming from Heineken. All right, so some questions out the gate that I think that you guys are going to have. Number one, is there going to be an inventory central server? Yes, scheduled for the next version of inventory. It's going to be 13. And it won't take us as long to get that because of the shared code base. This was a huge undertaking for us. That's why 12 has been out since December. It's a huge undertaking, but a lot of the work is already done. So the next version of inventory, what that means for you is right now, inventory, you're still going to want to have inventory on the console or on the server machine. If you can still have inventory on your client machines, but they're not going to be sharing the same database. All right. Let's go ahead. First question out.
Dear Shane and Lex, how is this licensed? If I have 3 admins and 1 central server, do I need just 3 licenses for the admins, or do I also need an additional license for the server? Sincerely, Wendy F.
Hi, Wendy. In the case that you described, you would need 3 licenses. So it's based on the concurrent consoles and CLI commands that are going on. So if you have 3 admins and 6 different client consoles, you'll only be able to run 3 of them concurrently based on your licenses. So the answer is, to cut it down, you need 3. You don't need 1 for the central server.
Just for the admins.
In this example, If you have 1 license, obviously, then you've got your central server and your console that you would run anyway. It's just based on the concurrent sessions. Do we want to hit any more questions?
Dear Shane and Lex, after centralizing the database, is there any way to protect packages from being deleted by other admins? Sincerely, Jenner J.
All right. Hello. At this point, in this version 13, it's kind of all or nothing. When you add a console user, that console user you specify.
You give them full rights. At
Yeah,
that point.
they now have all the rights. So as Heineken, I can come over here and say, oh, let's delete this 7-zip.
And regardless of, as long as they're in the central
As long as they're-
console users, they can do whatever they want at this point.
And now you see it's been deleted. So it is all or nothing. Now, when you were to if you're working on a package right now,
Yeah.
let's say I want to start editing Adobe Reader DC.
Let's open it on Heineken also.
I will, but you first have to.
I want to see what it looks like when we're both in there at the same time, man.
Patience, Lex.
So on
You know I
Heineken,
don't have patience.
on Heineken, let's say I open up Adobe Reader DC, and you're going to see everything is grayed out. And up there in the title bar, if you can zoom in a little bit, JJ. That's okay. You can see this just says package is locked by Quintana on the computer Guinness.
Yep. So you know where it's being edited at that point.
So we have some locking mechanisms in there, but to answer your question, once again, at this point, it's all or nothing. Certainly depending on user feedback, we may be able to add some type of different levels of authorization.
Yeah. Hey, Shane. So this is running on the server, right? So the background service is running on the server also. What does it look like to a console if the background service on the server, or a client, if the server console's off? Or the
if the server goes down?
Yeah.
If the server goes down, you're
Or
going
the service stops?
You're going to see a connect. The client's going to be saying, "I'm trying to connect. I can't connect. I don't want to start it. No, I don't want to shut it down." You'll see it.
Not the
Hopefully
server,
this-
just stop the background service. It looks the same.
All right. Well, yeah, the background. Okay, you really want to do that?
I really want to do it.
Lex, you are full contact ID.
Boom.
And then there you go. Any of these that have been changed, you will see the little link there. It's been moved to the background service. Oh, you know what? Yeah,
Gotta stop it from
you can stop
services.
it. You want to stop it from service? Let's not do that.
All right, well, you will see what it looks
The
like.
background service is all important. But it's the same way in the local mode. Anytime you submit a deployment or a schedule kicks off or whatever, it's actually the background service that kicks that off. So if that background service is down, for all intents and purposes, PDQ Deploy is down.
Yes.
All right. Do we have any other? I know we have other questions. Let's throw some out.
Dearest Shane and Lex, since there is going to be a central server, what are the chances of the server hosting a web page with all the functionality of the PDQ Deploy console when I am out and about away from my desk? Sincerely, Christian R.
Well, there's one word I want to take exception with. We do have some tentative plans to offer a web console, but that word "all." Yeah, I would almost every offering out there. The web console is there's usually just some features that you can't do on the web console.
Yeah.
There's some limitations there. So while we're tentatively planning on offering something like that, we don't have a version yet. Keep in mind, I'm using the word tentatively. I doubt that it would be all the functionality. There would be, probably something like being able to deploy or look at reports or something. But configuring certain things, there's going to be some point where you're going to need access to the console.
Yep.
We keep on throwing those questions.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dear Shane and Lex, are we able to keep user credentials on client separate? We need to be able to quickly see who sent each deployment and not be able to deploy as each other. Love your show, Kathleen F.
Ha! Little ad lib there. Hi, Kathleen.
Hey.
So if you want to set those credentials, it's kind of the same. You're going to want to go to the credentials options and add those different credentials, and then those users are going to have to specify those credentials.
Yeah.
But right now, once again, kind of all or nothing. I log on as Quintana or Al Swearingen, but I have these options to run from: Vincent, Quintana, and Chris Powell. I could run as Chris Powell. So at this point, it's an all or nothing type thing. Remember, there's no database on the client machine.
Now, to be able to see who deployed, I don't know if you noticed when we deployed 7-zip, there is you can see right here, deployment, where it came from was Heineken.
You can at least see that it came from the computer Heineken,
Yeah.
but we're not stopping that. So yeah, you could deploy to other computers, whatever your deploy user has rights to. All right.
Yeah.
And you can choose that deployment user at the time of deployment.
Dear Shane and Lex, is the premise behind the centralized server to be similar to SCCM, where the host application is housed on a server and we access the app through a user console. Sincerely, Michael, uppercase G.
Hey, Michael G. I mean, yes, it is similar. Where if you want, once again, it's optional. If you want to use a central server, you specify that, and then any client console literally connects to that server. But that server's database is what is used. All the settings, schedules,
Service
everything.
schedules, everything gets deployed. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a feature that a lot of our customers that have a lot of different administrators, they just want one central area. So we try to do kind of some patchwork with the sharing option where you can share packages and stuff. But we certainly ran into some limitations there, and we finally just had to bite the bullet and make this huge feature, which took a long time. Yes, the answer is yes.
The answer is yes.
You want to add anything, Chris?
Chris is sitting over there laughing in the corner.
The answer is yes. I'm sorry.
A little verbose. The longest possible route to the yes.
Dearest Shane and Lex, does the server include a way of direct sharing custom tools instead of export and import them? Timo, S.
I don't think Timo has ever used the word dearest. Take exception to that. Timo, that would suggest that it's available for inventory, which it's not yet. And we're actually still designing that. So Chris and I were discussing this last week. How we handle the tools is still to be determined.
Yeah.
But we're the problem we run into on the tools is there are some tools that you're going to have to run from the client machine and not from the server, and vice versa. So we have to kind of take that into consideration when we build that. But the tools are still to be determined.
Dearest Shane and Lex, and I know she uses that word, will we be able to see/abort other admins' deployments? If one is running over or a retry queue is causing reboots, will a different admin be able to stop it from running? Sincerely, Tiffany G.
Yes.
Let's show her.
So you want to do a reboot?
No, I want to go launch something and then cancel it on Heineken.
Okay, so let's. So we'll just do this with D7 again.
D7, okay. So this is being deployed right now from Guinness, which is the server.
So I'm deploying this, and then Heineken, Alice Swearingen is running and says, "Oh, there's a deployment. I really, really dislike this person.
I want
And just
to
abort
undermine all of Shane's work, so I go and abort it. And there you go.
Now, as far as stopping shutdowns, I haven't tested this. Maybe Colby could throw in, or anybody that has. We use the shutdown API for Windows, and there's in the shutdown exe, which also accesses the same API. There's always a shutdown/a. So if you wanted to abort a shutdown, you could probably initiate a shutdown/a. Maybe have a package that does that if this is a big concern. I haven't verified that though.
Yeah,
but that
either.
usually aborts any shutdown that's in the timer phase. Is that your understanding, Chris?
I've actually used that in production at my last place I worked for. When someone actually did trigger a shutdown. Granted, this wasn't with PDQ Deploy.
So that's why you were fired.
Yeah. Somebody did this.
He changes I to somebody.
We hired him for charity.
Charity.
Oh.
It's true.
No more homeless corgis. Is that why we hired Chris?
Try shutdown/a if the shutdown is a concern, Tiffany. And yes, you can abort others. You can remove them from the retry queue. You can initiate schedules. I mean, you're all accessing the same console, which is a lot of the things that the features that people were asking the most. I've got all these admins. We want to see the same stuff. If we see a deployment going to some computers, we now know that, and we're not stepping on each other with deploying from our own consoles. So.
Yeah, and again, the other nice thing is I can build a package, I can put it out and say, Shane, will you take a look? And he doesn't have to go searching for it. It's right there.
Correct.
So,
correct.
Dear Shane and Lex, will moving to a central server result in a PDQ client being needed on the end user's machine? Sincerely, Jason.
Hey, Jason, no. At this point, we're still using what we kind of term as the on-demand agent. So, no, your end users, like for almost everything with PDQ, should be oblivious. Not a far jump for many end users anyway. They should be oblivious to what's going on. But no, there's no client that's needed on there. We are considering doing an optional, once again, just like the central server is optional, an optional agent.
yeah.
So, Nope.
Dear Shane and Lex, what is the best way to share packages created by other admins of my enterprise subscription, Massimo R?
Well, we're doing away with sharing, so as you create packages, they will be available in this version, and we're looking at perhaps some additional features in the future for that. But right now, if I were to create a new package, and obviously the easiest way to do that is to just import something easy. We'll go back to Audacity and import that. I import this from Heineken. I will see Audacity added right away. This uses the repository. There it is. This uses the repository on the central server. All right. And if you can obviously still move your repository to another file server. You do that. You just have to change the repository value, and then of course move all your install files over there. If you do that, anytime you have your repository on a remote file server, we recommend that you change your copy mode to pull, not push.
Not push. Save some network traffic.
Dearest Shane and Lex, will there be a view-only option so I can prevent my boss from pushing something they shouldn't? Sincerely, Chris W.
So, Chris, first question: why would you let your boss have this? I mean, really?
So at this point, obviously, the word "will" suggests that you're aware that or hopefully that right now it's all or nothing.
Yeah.
So at this point, if your boss has access, then they'll be able,
they're off to the races,
do it.
man.
Yeah.
There's no read-only mode.
There is no read-only mode, but one thing to keep in mind: a lot of we talking to customers. A lot of times, their bosses they want to just look at deployment reports. We have deployment reports that you can automatically generate, kick out to a file share or an email, so that they can get those reports that they want without having to give them the keys to the kingdom.
Yep.
I'm just waiting. If you guys want to keep on throwing down.
Yeah. All right.
No, I'd like to keep on. I mean, we can show more deployments or schedules, but I think they get the idea that what I see on one console, I see on the other one.
Good deal. Let's do one more then.
Dear Shane and Lex, if a client machine gets rebooted, will any packages being deployed fail, or will they continue since they are linked to the server? Sincerely, Mary M.
Hi, Mary M. Okay, so this is going to be the same behavior that you'd have in Deploy 12. When you're deploying a package, number one, if you initiate the reboot within the package, like you use a reboot step, obviously at that point we're expecting that computer to reboot, and we just kind of wait for it to come back up. And by waiting for it, we're pulling it to say, hey, are you there? Are the necessary services back up and running? If the reboot happens outside, we try to trap some of those offline errors, and if we see that, we'll go into the same mode where we're just waiting for them to come back. But there are some times where it's just lost the connection, and
at that point
we didn't detect that in time, and it just fails.
So with computer offline. At that point.
My thing is, I always like to try to control the reboots from the packages that I build.
Absolutely.
So you say don't if you are deploying a Windows cumulative patch. Do a no restart, and then after that step finishes, then initiate a reboot if you want a reboot step, and that way we're absolutely aware. And by we, I mean deploy.
Yeah.
Dear Shane and Lex, if a local PDQ Deploy install is connected to a central server, will we be able to have our own local jobs as well as those jobs stored on the central server? Sincerely, Tom Y.
No.
Tom, if you want those, you're going to have to export them and then import them on the server. You can have them, but there's a step to get them. Now, Brig has written a pretty good blog on this. So
yes. So at this point, there might be some of you who still want to kind of work in a sandbox, and at that point, have a computer that just has deploy installed in local mode.
Yeah.
And then other people won't see what you're doing. And then if you got a package that's ready for prime time, then you can export that. Import that back into the central console, and you should be good to go.
Speaking of that blog, Kelly, is that in bonus content?
Which
Briggs blog on how to export and import?
No,
okay.
It's not yet.
But we easy one to find, guys.
There's a blog that's coming out about Central Server. The link is in there.
Okay, excellent.
Shane and Lex, because I can't call you dearest anymore. Monica's calling me out on that. How can remote laptop users be managed? Is this the module coming soon? TT.
Remote, yeah, that would come with the optional agent that we're talking about. But once the agent comes out, that just means we have the framework for the agent.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different features that we can add to that agent. One of those would be something like
phone home, basically.
a phone home or some type of service like that. But that wouldn't be available right away. That is intentional. Now, when those laptops come back in the office, you can have
a heartbeat schedule.
Yeah, you can have a heartbeat schedule. So they've got the new Chrome waiting to go, and inventory sees they were offline, now they're online. That triggers a deployment of whatever you have set for heartbeat schedules. There's also the retry queue if you want to use that. I'm more of a fan of the heartbeat schedules and retry.
It's cleaner, guys. It really is.
And there's one thing I want to cover, but it's not necessarily central server. It is a very important, one of the most popular packages out there. You can see this little link here, is Google Chrome. We've always maintained a 32-bit and a 64-bit package. They are now all in one. Google has made a change as of version .96 of Chrome, where if you're running a 64-bit OS with 32-bit Chrome, it will auto-update to the 64-bit version if you have more than 4 gig of RAM. As a result, those of you who have Chrome and you've got especially auto deployments, if you have auto deployments that use a 64-bit, you're going to want to change that, detach the 64-bit package, and add the Google Chrome Enterprise, which is now, you can see in the Google Chrome Enterprise, we now have an extra step. This installs a 32-bit on 32-bit machines, and obviously 64 on 64, without regard to the amount of memory. That's just, really want to call that out, especially for auto deployments. We did make a package for the 64-bit Chrome, but we renamed it to hopefully call this out to you. It's Chrome 64-bit, please use the other package. We're not going to keep this one up to date, so we're giving you one cycle of Chrome to change your auto deployments. All right, just had to call that out. That good, JJ, or do we have anything else, brother?
I think one more. Actually, we're going to do a reprise on a question.
Okay.
Apparently you misunderstood it.
Okay.
According to Jason.
All right.
So, once again, and she did say, dearest Shane and Lex, if a client machine gets rebooted, will any packages being deployed fail, or will they continue since they are linked to the server, Mary M?
I guess if I misunderstood it, I'm going to answer the same way.
If they are being deployed and the machine turns off during the deployment, that deployment will fail.
Unless deployment sees, at some point, the deployment says, oh, if it's between steps, basically, and we see that the computer is no longer responding, then we think, oh, it's been rebooted, and we're going to wait for the duration of the deployment timeout, which by default is an hour. We'll wait, and so my answer to that one, Mary, was it's the same as it's always been since we introduced the reboot feature, and that is a reboot step, and that is, if we detect that it's offline between steps, then we will wait, and it won't fail necessarily. If someone just shuts it down in the middle of a step, yes, it will. That deployment will fail, whether it's coming from the server or a client. Yeah. But once again, it's the same in 12 or 11 versions.
Yep.
So,
last question.
Shane and Lex, when going to a server-client setup, do we need to be concerned about any security vulnerabilities? PCI has already questioned me about PDQ before. Sincerely, Michael R.
Honestly, the security vulnerabilities, or the security, I should say, I don't know of any vulnerabilities, but the security that you need to be worried about is the same whether it's running in local mode in version 12 or in 13.
Yeah.
It all comes down to that server is the one making the deployment. That server needs to have credentials to all the target machines that it deploys to. Whatever the deploy user is has to have admin rights. Whether you're coming from a client or the server, it's all the same, because remember, everything comes from the server anyway. Whether you're initiating it from a client, that server. So you still have the same requirements. We require we use SMB, Windows sharing, admin dollar share.
ICMP4 to ping the machines, let us know they're online.
But as far as PCI, we have a lot of clients that have to be PCI compliant.
In fact, we've got a lot of PCI auditors who suggest our software to their clients to use. So
certainly no vulnerabilities that we're aware of, but you know, we always keep an eye out for that.
Definitely.
Hopefully that answers your questions. Hey, once again, optional feature, but feel free to use it. Enjoy. This was one of the most requested features we've ever had here.
And I got to tell you, it's been a lot of fun, working with people to go through the beta on this.
Yeah, you've actually been at the customer sites and seen them get pretty excited. Eh?
Yeah, it's been great.
It's been a long time in the making. And I think it's
Yeah, it really has. We're going to hit some scotch over here. It's been a good day.
Catch you all later.
We'll talk to you later. Guys.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for joining our webcast today. Congratulations, Christian R. and Wendy F., winners of PDQ swag. Send us your info at webcast@pdq.com. Also, Sean Painter, winner of the PDQ Vintage Coaster. Give us a shout here on the chat. We'll get you all set up. And please don't forget, we are looking for 3 positions: scripting, automation, PDQ product support, and senior IT security. You can find that link in our bonus content. Thanks again, and we'll see you back here next week.